Chase at the 40. Look at that move. Look at Chase go. Oh, my goodness. What a gear.
He comes down to this in his car end zone. Intercepted.
McPherson. And Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl.
Toss here. Mixon's going to throw. Open man caught. Higgins touchdown.
Drives touchdown. Joe Burrow has his first rushing touchdown of the season.
Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our victorious Cincinnati Bengals. Once again, Maan, the Bengals are victorious. We have a lot to talk about tonight on episode 29. We are almost to 30, Maan. It is crazy to think that. How's your week been?
It's been great. Just got back from Cincinnati. We had a great time up there. Got to spend some time with my wife and daughter. It was great to witness that win. Tell you, that was a great game. The stadium was lit up. And, we got to interact with some of our friends from the UK. Paul Hirons brought over a group of 25. He does a really great job organizing the Bengals UK fan club over there. Just really super, super nice guy. Everybody in that group was amazing. Got to have some beers with him and interact with him. It was great. He's had his podcast for over 5 years, and to finally get to meet the guy, it was great. He's a good dude. And, he does a great job over there. I think the Bengals have the fourth biggest following in England, which is pretty impressive. Yeah, that's impressive. They're in the top five, and it's all because of him and Nathan. They do a great, great job, and hats off to them. It was great to meet them, and it was great to get a win.
Absolutely. Been a good week down here in Florida. Though we have another tropical storm coming in. It's unbelievable. I can't believe we're talking about this in November. But once again, thoughts and prayers to everybody in Florida. Hopefully we make it out unscathed. But we do have one coming in. We actually they have shut down pretty much everything around here tomorrow and Thursday. So it's going to be a crazy week. We have playoffs starting this week in high school football too. We're supposed to be playing on Friday night for round one of the playoffs. So hopefully all that happens. And like I said, hopefully everybody is safe. Everybody stay safe once again. Take these things serious because you never know. Maan, you be safe as well. I know you being a first responder, you are going to be probably right in the thick of this thing. So hopefully everything goes okay. But we got a lot of. Let's talk about some positive here. Let's get right into our Bengals and this very impressive win on Sunday. I'm very jealous you got to be there. I obviously had a lot going on with the playoffs for my team, and really been under the weather the last couple weeks. But I'm feeling much better now. I'm looking forward to just a little over a month. Well, about a month from now, being at that Bengals Chiefs game. So that's going to be fun. But Maan, let's get to this game. You were there live. Tell me, what was it like just witnessing our run game finally taking form and taking shape? Hopefully that's what we're going to see week in and week out. I think that's what you and I pretty much expected from the beginning of the season, right? We both talked about Joe Mixon maybe being that MVP candidate that you and I both thought was going to be the case. But what was it like seeing that live? 5 touchdowns, a Cincinnati Bengals record.
Jake, I think when we attend Bengal games, it's not always relaxing. It's a little bit of stress during the game. Last year we went to the Steeler game. That was a relaxing game.
It was a nice one, right?
Well, this was the same thing. It was never in doubt. Everybody was having a good time. And, we were shaking our heads at some of the runs and seeing Joe Mixon and that offensive line dominate. A lot of people need to realize the Panthers had a pretty good rush defense. They were in the top 10 in the NFL, and the Bengals absolutely diced them. And I hope we get more of that because we're going to need that rush attack in the second half of the season after the bye. A lot of our key players will be coming back, fortunately, but unfortunately, Cheeto is a huge injury, and it's going to be hard to replace that. And we're going to need that run game to help our defense out a little bit.
Absolutely.
But I hope we get a lot more of that, and I think we will. And it was a sight to see, and I'm glad I was there because, buddy, it was a lot of fun. It was, especially after the game.
Oh, I'm sure. It was a lot of fun. I'm jealous. I couldn't be there. This Bengals team though is man, it's just we talk about it week in and week out. It's so frustrating because we 1 week we absolutely look like we don't belong on the field, and then the next week we look like true Super Bowl contenders. I don't think people realize, again, like you said, the Carolina Panthers, they've been in most of their games this year, and actually, they had an impressive win against Tampa Bay. I think it was 21-3 was the final of that game. And then last week against the Falcons, we all know the Falcons are a solid football team. I think they lost 37-34 on a crazy ending to the game. And, I think they lost in overtime. But, I mean, this is not a bad football team. It's really not. And P.J. Walker had been playing great. And, the Bengals defense with some backups in there really made him look like a rookie quarterback. But I want to talk more about offensively. Let's talk about these offensive numbers real quick. Joe Burrow quietly has a very efficient day, 22 of 28, 206 yards, a touchdown pass, 4 carries for 9 yards with a touchdown run, and was only sacked 1 time, which makes me very happy. And then our man, Joe Mixon, he 22 carries, 153 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 4 catches for 58 yards, and a touchdown through the air. Maan, he touched the ball 26 times, had over 200 total yards and 5 touchdowns. That is, again, Madden-like numbers, right? We have 2 weeks ago, Joe Burrow has Madden-like passing numbers, and this week, Joe Mixon has Madden-like rushing numbers. Real quick, Tyler Boyd, 5 catches for 44 yards. T. Higgins, 7 catches for 60 yards. Hayden Hurst, another solid game, 5 catches for 35 yards. Chris Evans goes down with an injury, another tough injury. This is they think it's a PCL, I believe, in the knee. So that is something that I think he'll be able to return from. But again, a tough loss, right? I mean, a guy, we already have Jamar Chase down. This is another offensive weapon that can really help this team, and he's out. On defense, Akeem Davis-Gaither and Marcus Bailey each with 6 tackles. They were the leading tacklers. Remember, the Panthers are playing from behind. They got a lot of garbage passing yards in that second half when they brought Baker in. So, these tackles are kind of all over the place. Logan Wilson, B.J. Hill, Bocce, and Jesse Bates all with 4 tackles. Bates and Pratt both with interceptions. We see Jesse Bates has another solid game. And then, but again, once again, our defensive front not getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Again, with a 0 sack game from that defensive line. They were there a couple times, but once again, couldn't close out the deal. And then our guy, Money Mac, who you and I are going to talk about here in a little bit. But, man, I hope this is not a sophomore slump from Money Mac, but he's struggling, Maan. 4 of 7 now from 40 to 49 yards. Something I think that we are more shocked about than anything that's going on right now is just his continuous struggle this year. And I thought maybe that Pittsburgh game week 1 that you and I were at, I thought, well, that's just a fluke, but I don't know, man. He's really struggling. What do you think? What jumps out at you with these stats, Maan, from the game on Sunday?
Well, just to quickly talk about the special teams, I think as a whole the unit's struggling.
Yeah, I agree. Punting, especially, right?
Huber, his leg just looks dead. They gave up that big return at the start of the second half to set up their first, the Panthers' first touchdown. And yeah, it is a little concerning. I'm not going to push the panic button with McPherson.
No.
I really think the long snapper situation, he's still trying to get familiar with that. And, hopefully they get those kinks worked out. Yeah, the offense, listen, it was easily the best performance of the year. Talk about balance. You mentioned it, Burrow with his passing. Burrow should have had another touchdown pass. The pass to Boyd was a touchdown.
I
The
agree.
pass to Irwin was a touchdown. And he's something else. And when you give the guy protection, look out. Joe Mixon, we talked about it a few minutes ago. He was just, unstoppable. You got to give credit to the offensive line. They did a really good job run blocking. I love I watched the game on replay today. I didn't get to watch it. I mean, obviously I watched it live, but when I got home, I watched it.
It's different. It's definitely different, right? Yeah.
The Asiasi, the tight end that we picked up from the Patriots, he can block. He's a good run blocker.
Yeah.
He was key to a couple of those touchdown runs. I noticed the Bengals were employing a lot of 2 tight end sets to help with the run game.
Yes.
I like that. They were going big. They brought in Hakeem Adeniji on a few snaps to play unbalanced line. I was glad to see it. A little bit of old school football. And guess what happened? Best running attack of the season. It was good to see. A little bit about the defense too. You mentioned it a few minutes ago. The Panthers had 380 yards offense against the Buccaneers a few weeks ago. They lost the game, but hey, they had over 170 yards rushing that game. Last week against the Falcons, it was a big shootout. They ended up losing that game, controversy, but they had over 420 plus yards against the Falcons. That offense did, and they ran the ball for 170 yards that game. The Bengals, the Panthers didn't have 100 yards offense until the start of the third quarter.
Didn't the Panthers win that game against the Buccaneers?
No, they lost. It was 21-3. I thought did they beat them?
Yeah.
I need to look that up then. Okay, so the Panthers did beat them. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But they
the
had
Panthers.
They had
That's why I said earlier in the podcast they had come off of 2 solid weeks. They beat Tampa 21-3.
Okay, I got that mixed up.
Yeah, and then they had the Falcons game. So they had they put up a lot of yards against Tampa Bay a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they had 380 total yards offense against the Bucs. I was under the impression that they still lost the game, but no, they won that game. And the Falcon game, that was a crazy game where the penalty on the wide receiver that was really questionable. But they had 169, 170 yards rushing against the Falcons, over 400 yards total offense. Well, the Bengals defense, Mike Hilton didn't play. Cheeto was out. Reeder was out. Tupou was out. They had a lot of key injuries. Yeah. We shut those guys down. They had 89 yards total offense in the first half. And you said it, a lot of garbage, yards and stats in the second half. The Bengals in the fourth quarter, they had all backups on defense except I think Bell and Bates were alternating at safety because the Bengals ran out of bodies in the defensive backfield from all the injuries. But, you know what? It was a great game. The one thing about Chris Evans, this would have been a spectacular game for him to come in and get about 15, 20 carries in the second half. Yeah. We could have seen him. He would have made some plays, but unfortunately that knee injury, which I hope isn't serious. I'm really worried about Dax Hill. Looking at the replay of that, it looked like, man, that could be a lingering issue for a little while. Hope I'm wrong. I'm not trying to be a doctor, just looking at a replay. But really want him to play and develop because I think he's going to have a bright future. But it was a great game, and I just hope that run game just continues to take off. And I hope we get a lot of games like this in the second half of the season.
Well, I mean, again, that's what the Bengals are going to need, right? I mean, they're going to have to play good defense and run the football. And teams that do that typically, make a run here. And again, it's the door is back open a little bit, right? And I mean, obviously, you hate to see, Allen go down with that injury, but the door to the AFC is still open for the Bengals, but they need to make a run here the second half, almost like they did last year, right? Because both last year and this year they were 5-4 at at the bye week. And, last year, obviously, we know what happened. They turned it up a notch. They came out of the bye week, and that's what we're going to have to do this year. I mean, that Pittsburgh game coming out of the bye week is the biggest game of the year as far as I'm concerned. The Bengals cannot be 0-4 in the division. And right now, if the season ended today, they're like the 9th seed because of these losses in the AFC. I mean, those conference wins are a big part of the tiebreaker when it comes down to who's in and who's out. And the Bengals right now only being a game they're really a game and a half behind Baltimore because they lost that game to Baltimore. But right now, a game and a half back of Baltimore. Baltimore's schedule is pretty easy the rest of the way. Cincinnati Bengals are going to have to go on a run here if they want a shot at the AFC North and to get into the playoffs. And we'll talk about all of that though next week, right? On the bye week, we're going to talk all about. We're going to do our awards, the first half awards, and then we're going to talk about what our expectations are coming into the second half of the season. Yeah. But right now, before we go into anything else, I want to talk about offensively right now because again, it is kind of interesting that we finished last year 5-4 going into the bye. This year we're 5-4 going into the bye. So I thought I'm trying to let's look at the stats and stuff, and then our guy Jay Morrison tweets out the stats, the offensive stats at least, from last year and this year at the bye, both teams being 5-4. Some of these numbers are actually, it's kind of wild. A lot of them are only a couple digits off from each other, and some of these things are going to be a little unexpected, I think. So, Maan, you mind real quick if I go through these?
Go right ahead.
All right, here we go. So, once again, thank you, Jay Morrison, for this. This is great stuff. Again, both teams 5-4 going into the bye week. Our 22 Bengals, right, this year's Bengals, have scored 228 points in these first 9 games. Last year's Bengals, the 21 Bengals, scored 236 points. So only 8 points off from each other. Again, both teams being 5-4. This year's Bengals have rushed for 889 yards. Last year's Bengals, 874 yards. So we have actually rushed for more yards these first 9 games. And you and I have been complaining about the run game. Well, last year it was worse, Maan, if you can believe that. Again, not by that much. We're only talking, about 15 yards difference, but still. Rushing attempts. This year's Bengals, 222. Last year's, 225. So only 3 attempts off. We've had less rushing attempts this year and more yards. The rushing average this year, 4.0 yards. Last year, 3.9. And again, obviously, Joe Mixon's game on Sunday really boosted these numbers, right?
Yeah, I was about to say that. That's
right, because before we probably are talking about how bad the run game is right now. Passing yards. This year's Bengals, 2,580 yards. Last year's Bengals, 2,556 yards. So 24 yards off, higher, 24 yards higher from this year. But how crazy is that this year's Bengals have 39 more yards offense than last year's Bengals? It's that close, Maan.
Yeah, that is eerie.
Good.
No, that is eerie. That's
crazy, right?
Else,
well,
yeah.
Hang on. It's gonna be even crazier here. So listen to these numbers. Passing attempts. This year's Bengals, 337 passing attempts. Last year's Bengals, 290. So there we see a bigger difference at 47 more passing attempts this year than last year. Passing yards per attempt, about 7.7. Last year, 8.8. So yards per attempt were more last year than this year. Points off turnovers. The Bengals this year, 38 points off of turnovers. Last year's Bengals, 34. So 4 yards off, 4 yards more. 4 points more this year than last year. Giveaways. This is a good stat. This year, 10 giveaways. That's interceptions and fumbles. Last year, 13. So we have 3 less this year. Points per drive. Actually more this year. 2.35. Last year, 2.25. Here is the crazy one, Mon. And this is what really scares me. This year's Bengals have given up more sacks at this time than last year's Bengals. This year's Bengals have been sacked 32 times. Last year, 25. So really rough second half last year for our Bengals. That sack percentage, 8.7 this year. That's per play. And 7.9 last year. So that's almost one more, per plays. Quarterback hits already, 59 quarterback hits. Last year, 54. Those are a little alarming, Mom. What do you think about those numbers?
Yeah, they are. They are very alarming. There's a lot to dissect there. The rush attack. I hear what you're saying about compared to last year. But if we just go strictly by the eyeball test, the run game has been really inconsistent this year. It took off.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
It took off on Sunday, skewed those stats a little bit. I hope we see more of that, and I think we will. Now, listen, the Bengals go empty a lot. Obviously, the offensive line had the struggles early in the season, and they 7 sacks against the Steelers. They played Micah Parsons and the Cowboys. They lit us up. But, I think the quarterback hits, when we play empty sets, Joe's going to get hit. And we talked about it the other day when he's playing the Falcons, when he's playing the Saints. He was delivering these dimes, beautiful passes, but he was still getting hit hard after that ball was released. I hated seeing that, but it shows you how tough this guy is. I don't want him to get hit. I want the sacks to go down, but I just think the way our offense is set up, I think it's just part of the game. And
we've given up 7 more sacks so far, but we've also thrown it almost 50 times more.
Yeah,
so that might skew those numbers a tad, but still very alarming. Joe's already taken 59 hits and been sacked 32 times in the first 9 games. That's not a good stat, Mom.
No, it is not. It is not. And I've been doing a lot of reflecting. The rushing attack Sunday was epic, and I want to see that. So listen, I know I mentioned this last week. We're in the age of Burrow, Mahomes. We're going to throw the ball. The rush attacks of the past aren't like this isn't old school NFL, but we still need to have an effective run game. And I just keep on thinking about a year, 2013, when the Bengals were just ravaged by injuries. Remember, A.J. Green missed 6 games. Eifert was out for the year. Marvin Jones was out for the year. Their key players didn't play. But we had Mo Sanu and Jermaine Gresham, and we had a rookie. I know we don't like talking about because, what happened in that playoff game, but Jeremy Hill carried that team.
He did.
The last 9 games of the season, he was top 3 in NFL in rushing, and he single-handedly got us to the playoffs. Of course, we didn't win. We played the Colts because we had Kobe Hamilton and Rex Burkhead playing wide receiver.
Oh,
but
God.
Jeremy Hill was like top 3 runner for the yards from scrimmage rushing the last 9 games of that NFL season. Man, I tell you what, if the Bengals can recreate something like that this year, look out. We'll definitely be in the playoffs.
Well, they're going to need it. They're going to need to. They're going to need to. You look at the back half of this schedule, and at this point, there's only one more NFC team, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Besides that, it's all AFC. And if the Bengals are going to make a run at this thing, they are going to have to win these conference games because, as you can see, when you look at the standings right now, the Bengals are 9th because of their their conference losses. And that's a little scary. That is a little scary. And I want to go back what you said too about, we saw Trent Irwin make some grabs. We saw Trent Taylor make some grabs. Obviously, they have jumped Mike Thomas on the depth chart, which they should have. I mean, again, I'm not going to badmouth Mike Thomas, but I feel the same way, about Jalen Davis. I think this team, I really do. And you and I are going back and forth in text messages. I can't remember if that was today or yesterday, but we text so much about, I think it was today, right?
About Jalen Davis. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, about Jalen Davis.
Yeah.
We went back and forth for about an hour on Jalen Davis. And, again, I'm rooting for Jalen Davis. And I of course I want him to be successful so the Bengals win. I'm just really aggravated, to be honest, that this football team did not make a splash before the trade deadline. And I know we're right at about 3 or 4 million. I understand that, but other teams find ways to fit guys into their budgets, and I just don't understand when you lose a guy like Cheeto, who's out for the year. We're not talking about a guy that's going on IR and is coming back, but when you lose a guy like Cheeto, and we're just going to run with the guys we have, I just don't understand the Bengals thinking, even with Jamar Chase. And I know Jamar's coming back, but, it's a hip injury. It's not it's something that could linger. And again, I just don't understand why the Bengals are not bringing in a receiver and a DB that, again, I don't want to badmouth Jalen Davis and Mike Thomas and those guys, but listen, and Jalen Davis plays that nickel corner. I understand all of that, the slot corner, but our defensive backfield right now is not very. It's just not very deep, and I'm very nervous about it. Just like I am with the receiving room right now. I don't know. It's just the way I feel.
I think the wide receiver 4 position is going to be a platoon. It's going to be Taylor and Irwin. Obviously, they're not happy with Mike Thomas's play, so I salute the staff for doing something about it. Irwin's feisty. Listen, Irwin's been on the practice squad. He's produced, and that's the way it should be in any profession, not just the NFL. The guy's busted his tail, and he's finally getting a shot, and I'm glad to see that. Taylor, hey, man, he played a great game. Solid special teams player. I think those two guys are going to be a platoon-type wide receiver 4. Listen, the Jalen Davis thing, I'm just going to go what Lou said. Like Jay Morrison sent out that tweet today. Lou Anarumo never praises young guys, and he went out of his way to praise Jalen Davis. Jalen Davis has been on the roster a couple years now. He's played in the preseason, played well enough to make the team. And listen, he's not an outside corner. If the Bengals have to put him on the outside, we're in serious trouble.
Well,
but
they might,
comfortable with him.
They might.
Well, I mean, if push comes to shove, yeah, that's true. But I don't disagree about the outside corners, because listen, Cheeto, if I asked you at the beginning of the year, who 3 players we cannot lose, he would be one of the 3.
Absolutely.
He's one of the top. He's one of the top 7, 8, 10. Yeah. He's phenomenal. And losing him.
He's top 5. He's top 5 in the NFL.
Yeah, but listen, teams don't cough up cornerbacks. We could offer a 1st or 2nd round pick. Teams aren't going to do that. Now, do we want to give up a 3rd or a 4th for somebody?
Yes, we do.
Do we need another outside corner? Absolutely, we do. We do. Yes. But you know what? They didn't do it.
I mean,
and
this is my. Go ahead, Mom. I was just going to say this is.
You go.
Okay. This is my thing is, we're not talking about replacing, our number 2 or number 3 corner. We're talking about replacing our number 1 corner. And again, I'm an Eli Apple fan. Cam Taylor-Britt is going to be a great player for us. I really do believe that. But you're telling me that you lose a top 5 corner, and I'm not saying you could go out and get another top 5 corner. Obviously, that can't happen. But you're telling me we're running with Eli Apple and a rookie who has missed part of the season as our 2 corners the rest of the way when we have the Chiefs, the Bills, That gauntlet that we're going to go through there toward the end of the year. You're telling me that's who we're running with? And again, Trey Flowers, I know you and I argue about this all the time. Trey Flowers was a corner when he was in Seattle. Trey Flowers is now a kind of like a Swiss Army knife DB, right? He's like a specialty DB. We see him last year. We saw him in those packages where his primary job is to cover the tight end, right? And he does a good job of that. But you can't be putting Trey Flowers on a boundary corner. Dax Hill, again, we've seen him struggle. He's banged up now. I know you and I, on the phone, you're like Jake, Jalen Davis is a slot corner. Yeah. But Maan, he might have to go play boundary. And that's what you want. We can't run with that. I mean, we are so thin at DB right now.
Would you want Mike Hilton playing boundary? I mean, he's not made to play out there.
No, and I don't want him to play boundary. That's my point. No,
but Jake, NFL teams have 5 or 6 defensive backs. I mean, and not all of them are going to be elite. I mean, it's not easy to go out and get a quality replacement to come in and replace Cheeto. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's not magic.
You say that, Maan, but you say that, Maan, but teams go out and get quality replacements. We saw them do that at the trade deadline. Teams went out and got good quality replacement players. I just said I'm not expecting the Bengals to go out and trade for a top 5 corner. You can't replace Cheeto. He is one of the best in the league. But you definitely can go out and find a veteran guy from another team that is more serviceable than what the Bengals have right now. And I mean, that's just the truth. There's no other way to say it. And if the Bengals are going to compete, that's what they have to do.
When it comes to Jalen Davis, what are we criticizing? I'm
not criticizing Jalen Davis. I'm criticizing the Bengals for not going out and replacing their top defensive back who is out for the season. Listen, Jalen Davis is a great special teams guy. I'm okay with him being on the roster. I'm not okay with him starting. That's what I'm saying to you, Maan. And there's no reason why he should be. There's none. Again, you look at – go ahead.
Jake, I'm not going to agree with you on it. The guy has never played down in the NFL. Okay, yeah. I just don't get it. Lou Anarumo likes him. Jay Morrison said he doesn't praise rookie players. He went out of his way to praise them. I sent you articles from preseason where the Bengals were praising his play. I mean, you know what? All I'm saying is give the guy a shot, and I mean, listen, is he going to be Hilton? Absolutely not. He's not going to be Mike Hilton. But, is he going to be serviceable? I think he could be. And listen, I get it. Roquan Smith, 2nd-round pick. All these guys, these teams, I would love to see the Bengals do that.
Bradley Chubb.
I don't want them giving up a 2nd-round pick. I don't want them.
Maan?
I wouldn't give up a 2nd-round pick for any of those guys.
Are you kidding me? You wouldn't give up a 2nd-round pick for Roquan Smith? Are you serious? You wouldn't give up a 2nd-round pick
for the Bengals? Roquan Smith doesn't need to be a Bengal. We have linebackers.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying in general. You wouldn't give up a 2nd-round pick for Roquan Smith? Are you serious? You wouldn't give up a 2nd-round pick right now if there was a top corner on another football team. You would not give up a 2nd-round pick for him right now.
If there was a young corner that was in the caliber of Roquan Smith as a linebacker, absolutely I would. But
that's my point. Mom, that's my point. Did we know that Bradley Chubb and Roquan Smith was available? I mean, I'm sure the Bengals could have picked the phone up and made a couple phone calls, at least. I'm sure they could have. And maybe they did. I don't know. I just know that the Bengals right now are banged up. Last year, we were lucky, Maan. You and I talked about it all the time. We were lucky. We didn't have these issues that we're having this year. But your number one receiver's down. Your number one corner is out for the year. Your number one defensive tackle is down, hasn't played in 3 weeks, who's your best run stopper. The Bengals right now are seriously banged up, and we're replacing them with guys that haven't even taken NFL snaps. Maan,
Listen, I mentioned it.
Listen,
last week.
I'm not rooting against these guys. I want them to be successful, but I also know that if the Bengals are going to make a serious Super Bowl run, that Jalen Davis playing corner is not the ticket. He's just not the ticket. And maybe one day he will be, but right now he's not.
You have been a Bengal fan your whole life. The Bengals don't operate that way. And,
I know they
that's
don't.
Fantasy land. That's fantasy land. You know they don't operate that way. And understand something.
They can't.
I don't understand.
They can't.
There is. You don't like Jalen Davis. I don't know why you don't like him. You have no film to prove he's not good.
Come on,
you don't.
I'm
have
not
zero.
Saying I don't like Jalen Davis, Mon. I'm not saying I don't like him.
You think he's a waste of a roster spot. There is no film to prove that. I
just said he's a good special teams player. I don't have anything against Jalen Davis. I don't know why you keep thinking I do. What I have something against is why our Bengals are still not trying to improve this roster when they had an opportunity to improve it. That's what I'm frustrated about. Not Jalen Davis. I am frustrated with, and you're right, our Bengals they don't operate that way. But how often have we had a roster that's this good, with a quarterback that's this good, with a team that has a chance to make another Super Bowl run? How often have we had that, and we are still not going out and trying to improve this roster, Mon? It doesn't make any sense.
Let me agree with you on this.
Please do.
Listen, I agree with you. I am jealous when I see the Dolphins go all in and get a Bradley Chubb. When they get him, and listen, they are playing really well. He's a player. Look what the team that beat us last year in the Super Bowl. They went out and got Von Miller. I think 2 years before, they got Jalen Ramsey. They went all in for a championship. I would love to see that. I want to see that. I just know it doesn't happen. Concerning, listen, the Cheeto injury, I said it last week. I said it at the beginning of the show. That's a huge injury, and that's why this team, they're not going to be able to replace it. Our defense is going to struggle against teams like the Chiefs and all of it. I'm sorry, it's going to happen. We're going to play more zone. We're not going to be playing man-to-man. Listen, Cheeto would lock down one receiver. It's not going to happen with these replacements. Cam Taylor-Britt, he's a work in progress. Alan George, we love him. He's going to be playing a lot more. He's still an undrafted free agent rookie. Trey Flowers, hey, I agree with you. He was cut in Seattle because he wasn't doing a good job as a boundary corner. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be a team effort, and it's going to be an offensive effort. That's where that running game comes in. Control the ball a little bit more. Keep the offenses that we're going to face, high-powered offense, keep them on the bench a little bit. Let's control the time, the clock. And keep them on the bench, keep Mahomes away from the field. And maybe we can eke out some of these wins. But Jake, I would love for the Bengals to get a replacement for Cheeto. I would love that. But you know what? It just hasn't happened. We just got to rock and roll with these guys that we got now. That's the only thing that's going to happen.
I just can't. I cannot accept rocking and rolling with the guys we have now. I just can't accept that. Again, if this team was 2-6, then yeah, okay, we'll rock and roll with it. This team has a chance to go to the Super Bowl again, Mon. They are still that talented of a roster. And when I look at these defensive team stats right now after 9 games, defense right now is ranked 12th, which isn't bad. Rush defense 18th, pass defense 12th, scoring defense 14th. And now we're missing our top corner. We still are missing our top defensive run stopper. And you don't go out and improve that defense. I don't understand it. There's nothing you're going to say that I'm going to be able to understand why the Bengals did not swallow their pride and go out and drop a second or third round pick and find a guy that is going to help this team win now, because that's what this is about, right? It's about winning now, right?
You know what? I wish I had that magic.
I know what that means.
I wish I had that magic wand to make it happen, but it didn't. And yes, I would love to see the team go all in. That Super Bowl window is open. I would love to see that splash move. Yeah. You know what? If the fan base is really energized now, it would really be energized if they went out and got a marquee player to get us over the top. But you know what? They didn't do it. I guess they're happy. three defensive backs in this draft. I know two of them are safeties, and I think they feel like that they're just going to roll with the guys they have. And hey, in Lou, I trust. In Lou, I trust.
I wish I could say that right now. I'm a little nervous about it. Let's talk about offensively right now as a team. Total offense 10th, rush offense 26th. Again, we talked about that earlier, the struggles running the football. Pass offense 6th and scoring offense 6th. So the offense is scoring points, the offense that you always are hard on scoring points, 6th in the NFL, Maan, in scoring points. Pass offense 6th. I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there. You threw it out on me with the defense a couple weeks ago. I'm throwing it out with you on the offense. But all seriousness aside, Maan, I will be honest with you. I am a little nervous. I mean, I want to have that same optimism that you have, but I'm also a realist, and I understand that, you know, if we line up with that same defensive backfield that we did on Sunday against the Chiefs and the Bills, I'm going to be – and I know Mike Hilton's coming back. And that will alleviate some of that. But, you know, Maan, when we had Cheeto, you were telling me how nervous you were about the depth at defensive back, and I agreed with you. Now we don't have Cheeto, and now, you know, all of a sudden we're just going to rock and roll with these guys. I don't see it.
Who did you want them to get? Who did you want them to pick up?
I don't know. I didn't have a name in mind, but the name that I have in mind is a vet that is an accomplished defensive back in the NFL. I mean, you know, again, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody on this football team. Again, I don't have anything against Jalen Davis. I am trying to tell you that I am frustrated that this football team now has this quarterback, now has this roster, and doesn't go out and make a splash when they, you know, they can find a way to do that. They have the picks, they have a way to do that, and we didn't see anything. We didn't see anything on the offensive front. We didn't see anything on the defensive, especially the defensive front at corner. And you know, I'm
I get it. I sense your frustration, and I agree with a lot. I really, really do. I agree with it. I guess I'm just at the point where, like, you know what? It's past. That trade deadline is long gone. They didn't do what they needed to do. Yeah, there are some street free agents that maybe come in. But listen, there's Kenny King. There's some guys out there that they could sign. But are they going to be effective? I mean, these guys are going to come in. They have to learn the system. It's literally going to be 3-4 weeks before they come in and do anything. I think they feel like, hey, we're just going to work with the guys we have. Listen, Cam Taylor-Britt was a second-round pick. And was he a second or a third-round pick? I'm confused on that.
Who?
Cam Taylor-Britt. I think he was a second-round pick.
He was a second-round pick.
He was, because Dax Hill was a first-round, second-round pick.
Yeah.
So you know what? Hey, you know, a lot of second-round picks start in the rookie season. So, you know, he's going to come in. He's definitely going to have he's not going to be Cheeto. He's not going to be Cheeto at all.
Well,
but hopefully he gets better and better. I like he's feisty. I like him in the run support. You know, But about the offense, listen, the offense scored 42 points. They scored 35 against the Falcons. They scored 30 against the Saints. 3 of the last 4 games, offense has played really well. That, you know, unfortunately the Brown game was a glitch there. We won 3 of our last 4. The offense has really picked it up, and I'm glad. And we're going to need him now because we need that complementary football. Because not having Cheeto, listen, this defense is not going to be the same. We still got a lot of very good players. I don't think the Bengals are going to get muscled by anybody, but we need our offense to really keep on doing what they're doing because it's time to play that complementary football. You know, we picked up the offense in the first half of the season, first few games. It's time for the offense to return the favor.
Well, they're going to have to, honestly. I mean, they're going to have to. Like I said, we are right now. This defense it's struggling to get to the passer. Right, we're struggling rushing the passer right now, and again, I talked about this earlier, and I know we're getting pressure on the quarterback, but you got to land these sacks. You just got to. And the team is struggling right now getting pressure on the quarterback. And right now, we're not too bad against the run. I mean, obviously the Saints lit us up, and we struggled a little bit against the Ravens, but this team is
The Browns too. The Browns.
Oh, the Browns. Yeah, that's what I meant, the Browns.
Yeah.
This defense right now is it's struggling. It's struggling, and like you said, the
But
offense
Jake,
is
hold
going
on.
to. Mhm.
Let me defend my defense a little bit. We just mentioned seriously. We just mentioned Carolina had almost 400 yards offense against the Buccaneers.
Uh-huh.
Carolina had 420, almost 450 yards against the Falcons. The same crew that came into Cincinnati, and they didn't even have 100 yards offense in the first half.
Mhm.
I mean, almost 800, let's just say 900 yards offense the previous two games. They come into Cincinnati, same crew, and they have under 100 yards. I mean, listen, we got to give credit where credit is due. The defense, without Reader, without Cheeto, these guys came in. Lou Anarumo, they had a horrible game on Monday night. They got whooped, and 6 days later they come in and they play. Listen, the Panthers aren't juggernauts. I get it, but listen, they're able to put up yards and points. They did the previous two games. Hey man, they didn't even have 100 yards total offense in the first half. I mean, I think it's pretty impressive.
I'm not. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think the defense. I'm not saying the defense is awful.
No.
I mean, they struggled against the Saints. They struggled against the Browns. They struggle against teams that can run the football right now. And obviously, it hurts not having DJ Reader. I mean, you and I talked about it. He's the best nose tackle in football, and he's probably one of the best run defenders in football. And we're seeing, we're seeing that on paper right now. But with that all being said, the defense numbers are starting to go up a little bit, and we're starting to see these injuries, and it all goes back to, I just wish the Bengals would have went out and improved this roster instead of just doing the old same thing where we're just gonna, like you said, rock and roll with it. And I know I'm making a joke of it, but you're right. That's how the Bengals have approached this every year. The last 40 something years I've been a Bengal fan we'll just rock and roll with the guys we got. But, again, like I said, we've never been in this situation where we have a quarterback like this and we still have a solid roster where we can make a run at this thing. Like I said earlier, the door is open for the Bengals to make a serious run. And, I'm just frustrated. That's all. I'm just frustrated with the way the trade.
I feel it, and just to let all of our fans out there, I agree with a lot of the things you say. I really do. I still think our roster is very, very good. And you know what? A lot of these young guys that unfortunately have to play now due to injury, they have been in Lou's system for the last few years. And I think, we need to look at that, bringing some guy in off the street that's, hasn't played for these guys. I think that's part of the reason also. Now, if there was an elite talent out there, absolutely, man. You know what? They need to consider that stuff. They need to.
And I would normally agree with you, but again, when you go out and you get a proven vet, I mean, did you watch Roquan Smith last night? He just walked onto that football team, and he was the best player on the field. He was the best player on the field last night. He was the best player on the field. And he literally was on that team for 3 days. And that's what I'm saying is there are guys out there that you can go out and get that are proven vets that know football. They understand coverages, that they can walk onto the Bengals right now and be the best corner that we have on our team. I'm just saying.
It's just not happening in Bengal.
I know it's not happening, but it should. It should have happened. I just
want to talk to you about that Raven game last night. That's their blueprint. I know the score was 27-13, but the Raven games for the remainder of this season, they're going to be 19-17 games, 21-20 games. That's the way their games are going to be. Their defense is pretty legit. Their offense is just run heavy, not elite. They're going to be in close games. And next time we play, we got to score more than 17 points against them, because I think if we get to 24, we win that game. Because listen, they're just old school football, run and play defense. And I was a little shocked last night. My prediction was not very
both of
good.
our predictions went out the window. Well, again, we were not expecting Roquan Smith to be a Raven, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that again. That I know I keep backtracking to that, but Bengals, we should have made a splash. All right, so the Steelers game we find out has been flexed out, Mon. So that Sunday night Steelers game next week is now flexed to the 4:25 slot, and you and I were very happy about that, celebrating. I did not want another divisional game on the road in prime time. I just did not want it, and you and I both might be one of the only few that didn't, but I did not want that game to be prime time. I'm very happy it's at 4:25 because that's, like you said last week, 3 primetime road games in your division is ridiculous. The NFL should never have put that together anyways.
That was ridiculous. I agree with you. NFL hates us.
And then I think Jay Morrison, or maybe Paul Dana, I'm not sure who it was, but one of them came out and said today, don't expect that Bengals Chiefs game to get flexed, because the Chiefs game just is the one that got flexed, that kicked the Bengals Steelers out of primetime, and now the Chiefs have reached their max.
Yeah.
So the Bengals Chiefs game is going to stay where it is. Real quick, Mon, let's get to our picks. The Bengals and the Ravens are both on a bye this week. So we have Browns at Dolphins. Mon, who do you got?
Browns at Dolphins. It's going to be ugly for the Browns. Miami's going to win that game. I'm going to say 27-14.
27-14.
Yes.
I say the Dolphins will win 24-13. All right, 24-13 Dolphins over the Browns, because, again, the Browns aren't playing us. So, once again, they will go back to looking like they've never played football before, like they do against everybody else except for us. Saints at Steelers, Mon. Who do you got?
The Saints really disappointed me last night. They're just poor Andy. Golly.
I know. I was thinking the same.
The Steelers are coming off a bye. I'm sorry. I'm going to pick Pittsburgh to win this game 13-6.
Wow. I don't see that happening. I do think it will be close. I have the Saints winning 17-10.
I want to say something real quick. I want you to be right. Please be right. And I want you to throw it in my face next week. I want you to be right, though. Okay.
Listen, at this point, obviously the Browns and Steelers, we need those guys to lose the rest of the games, especially the Browns, because we obviously don't have the blueprint to beat that football team. We have struggled. I do believe Bengals, Browns, the week after the Chiefs, Bengals, the Bengals are going to win that game. I really do have a feeling on that, that our Bengals are going to break the streak here in a couple weeks. Yes, Mom.
Let's do something really goofy here. Let's pick one more game, since the Bengals and the Ravens are on a bye. Let's just pick another game. And how about
you choose.
Chargers at 49ers. 8:20
Chargers
game. That's Saturday. That's Sunday Night Football. Chargers at 49ers.
Well, first of all, you know how I feel. I think Justin Herbert is. I don't think he's the real deal. I don't think he's a winner. I've said that many a time. I think he's got all the attributes. He's got the big arm. He's got the long body and everything that you would think that you would want in a quarterback. But Mon, he is not a winner. He's just not a winner. And quarterbacks have to be winners. I'm going to say the 49ers beat the Chargers. I'm going to say 24-17, the 49ers beat the Chargers.
I agree with you about Herbert. He is a physical specimen.
He
He's got a
is.
cannon, but his intangibles aren't there compared to Burrow, for example. I think they're a little lacking, but he is. I mean, he looks the part of a quarterback, but there's something missing at times. Listen, I'm going to pick the 49ers prime time game on the road Sunday night football. The 49ers are already up 3-0. Game hasn't even started. I got the 49ers 31-21. 49ers 31-21 over the Chargers.
49ers 31 points,
Yeah.
31-21. Listen, the Chargers, I mean, I don't know if you watched the Chargers-Falcons game this past Sunday. Once again, the Falcons just find ways to lose games. I mean, I can't even imagine being a Falcons fan. It has got to be absolutely heartbreaking. That Falcons team dominated the Chargers, and it's just crazy. It's crazy. They almost lost that Carolina game the week before. It's insane. This
Jake, you know what that
team.
reminded me of? When I saw the highlights of that game, it reminded me, do you remember when Geno Atkins sacked the quarterback for the Texans, picked up the ball, fumble, he ran to the bank, he ran almost for a touchdown. The Texans tackled him at the 2-yard line.
Yes.
Tackled him at the 2.
Yes.
Geno fumbled. Texans recovered. The Texans recovered at the 2, had to go 98 yards, and they scored the game-winning touchdown.
That was, that was the quarterback. The Texans quarterback was that kid from North Carolina, wasn't it?
No, he played in the playoffs against us. T.J. Yates, as you're talking about.
T.J. Yates, yeah. T.J. Yates, good God.
He quarterbacked at Virginia. I forgot his name. He played for the Texans for years. But listen to this.
I know you're talking about.
Matt Schaub, yeah. So Geno Atkins sacks him. He recovers a fumble, and he starts running, and he gets tackled at the 2. He fumbles. They recover, and they drive down.
I forgot all about that.
Kevin Walter scores a touchdown, ex-Bengal.
Yes.
And you know what kills me about that? If we would have won
Thanks for reminding me about that.
If we would have won that game, we would have had like a home playoff game.
Yes.
And we ended up going to Houston that year, second time.
We lost though to T.J. Yates. Wasn't he T.J. Yates played that playoff game? That's why I was thinking of T.J. Yates. But
football.
That was another team. That was another team. We couldn't beat the Texans. It didn't matter how good of a Bengal team we had in that time frame with Andy Dalton. We couldn't beat the Texans. It was awful, Maan. And every game was like within 4 or 5 points. And like you said, that's what that Falcon Chargers game reminded me of, because the Falcons went. Then they fumbled, or they threw a pick inside of the 10 or something, and then the Chargers go down and win the game. Just crazy.
Yeah, but I know it's jumping way ahead here. We're running late here, but what if the Chargers end up making the playoffs because of that stupid play against the Falcons? I know. We want the AFC teams to lose the good, but it's just football's crazy, man. Football.
Listen, you know why the Chargers? Go ahead.
Now it's like people think, the Ravens got the easiest schedule. The Ravens have the easiest schedule. Hey, man, anything can happen on any Sunday.
Oh yeah, the Ravens are going to lose more games.
Absolutely. Listen,
the Ravens
they
are
will.
going to lose.
I'm not going to say anything else. I said they're going to beat the Saints, and they didn't. But
listen, the Ravens are not. They're not that good of a football team. They're really not. I still believe that. I do not think they are that good of a football team. So as easy as their schedule is, they're going to lose some games. They just are. I mean, that's the way the NFL is. But let me tell you why the Chargers will not make the playoffs, because their quarterback is not a winner, Maan. Justin Herbert is not a winner. That is why they
Tell
will
us
not
one more
make the
time.
playoffs.
Tell us one more time.
All right. Well, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. Once again, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Make sure you check us out on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and all the other podcast platforms. Again, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, please make sure you give us that 5-star review. We very much appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9, and on Instagram, the same without the at, Bengals_Pulse9. And once again, make sure you check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Wincinnati Podcast Family Network. Maan, it is bye week. It's kind of a bummer week, but next week's show we are going to do the halfway mark, our MVPs on offense, defense. We're going to talk about what we hope to see the second half of the season. Once again, listeners, make sure you comment in the comment sections. Let us know how you feel about the Bengals not making a splash at the trade deadline. Once again, he is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hoo day, Bengal fans. We will see you next week.